Okay.
Today, my guest is Carrie Hoffman, and Carrie and I, did we hook up on Facebook? I think we hooked up
Yes,
on
we
Facebook,
did.
and
Yeah.
the usual Facebook group for everyone. And Carrie has a few things that she does, which are all very cool, and they all sort of intersect, right? So you're in Arizona right now. You said you're what, 7,000 feet up in the mountains?
Yep, I'm at my home base, which is between Flagstaff and the Grand Canyon. So northern Arizona, we're definitely up here on this plateau with lots of mountains surrounding. So it's about 7,000 feet elevation.
That makes me feel out of breath just thinking about it. Um,
It sort of gives you superpowers, honestly, once you get used to the altitude.
well, superpowers are cool. Uh,
Yeah, when you go back down to sea level, you're like, oh, so much oxygen.
so much air. Oh my, why is there so much air down here? That's, well, true. I mean, that's everyone can't just go up 7,000 feet and be totally cool. So I guess you're right. But so Carrie she's a yoga instructor. She also she hosts retreats all over the world, and has this off-grid space in Arizona where it's off-grid. And so she's got this little haven of 10 acres, my goodness, where she also hosts retreats. So Carrie, thank you so much for joining me today. I'm so excited to hear more about this.
Oh, you're so welcome. Thank you for having me. And I'm just always excited to make new friends and reach out to more people in this community that cares about sustainability and how we interact with the planet and all beings. So, super
Yeah,
excited to chat.
for sure. Thank you. So I'm going to say first, um, the words sustainable and travel, they sound so intriguing because you don't think of travel often as sustainable. It's like, the big fat buses in the air and with all the exhaust and all the everything. Um, and then, just everything involved in travel sometimes feels like it is excessive. But so if I'm curious how you travel sustainably.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. And it's almost like an oxymoron in some ways, this idea of sustainable travel when you do think about like the carbon footprint that especially flying has, or just any form of transportation. However, in my experience through the years traveling to many different countries around the world, I've just noticed that there are ways that you can do it more sustainably. And then through running the yoga retreats, which I've been doing for the past 6 years or so, I've just gotten to witness so many changes in people's mindsets after they do travel. And so I think it becomes a question of impact and looking at the greater good. So if like traveling to a new place outside their comfort zone, seeing a different way of living, seeing perhaps some of our environmental impacts on the world like more up close and in your face is going to cause someone to change their behavior back home and live in a more sustainable way for the rest of their life, then in my opinion, that's worth it. And so that's always one of the goals in the retreats that I run and in how I travel. And another concept is just encouraging people to travel more slowly, encouraging people to be aware of their impact when they're exploring the world, encouraging people to just not just like, book the first thing that's advertised in front of their face, but to actually like find ways to support local economies when they're traveling, actually find ways to eat local and support local farmers, um, just like slow down and stay in one place for a longer amount of time. So many people are working remotely nowadays, and so many people have the freedom to explore and to perhaps like hop around the world, and that's great. But, could you go to just one place and really dive deep and immerse yourself in a new culture for like 6 months, I've had the privilege of being able to do that many times in the last, since I graduated college. And it has changed the way I live. I would never be like on this off-grid 10-acre homestead if I hadn't like had those experiences in different parts of the world, and also lived the typical city life and kind of gotten burned out on that in the past.
Yeah. I love that. And so I've had a few episodes where I've talked to people, and I don't know if you had listened to any of them, but probably the most recent one was Nicola Marinelli. She's in Italy, and so um she is a travel, I call her a travel concierge. So she is on the east side of Italy, the southeast corner, southeast area. And so it's not like super touristy. And she was like, you would love it. I mean, I was like,
Mm.
I need to go there. I need to experience that, because she talks about like secret hotels and dining with helping to prepare the food and learning to sculpt things and stuff like that. So you're experiencing, not just like, when I think of travel, because it's been my experience so far, like I traveled to Russia and Siberia with a choir, and we were there 2 weeks, and I want to say the longest we were in one place was like 2 days. And so then you get on a plane and you fly somewhere, and then you get off the plane and they put you on a bus to sightsee, and you're just like, you are wiped out. I don't remember any of it. I remember cantaloupe ice cream, and that's what I remember about Russia and Siberia, because I slept on the bus. But there's just so much, like, if you don't have pictures of it, you don't remember it. And so when I was talking to Nikla, she was like, you're going to do this with somebody, and so you're literally experiencing their region. And so that's the smells and the feel, and it seems so much more real, more memorable for me. And then, like you were saying, to experience these different areas, you you appreciate what you have, and you appreciate what you're learning from these experiences and bringing that into your life. And part of, like, I had another episode with Noah Kleiner a while back, and what we were talking, he's a climber. uh Noah Kleiner is a climber. I love to say that. But
Nice.
so he teaches people climbing, and when they get to the top, it's not like, woohoo, look at you. He was like, now turn around and look at this that you would never have seen if you had not done this. So like helping people to find awe. And I was like, dude, that's intense. Like that's the real deal. Like, you appreciate the earth, and then you want to be better, right?
Oh, 100%. When we are choosing retreat venues, we're always looking for, first of all, like sustainable venues that are locally owned and that are doing things right. And then also these really wonderful places in nature where people can have that up close and personal experience, so that people want to protect the things that they love. I forget who said that. Maybe it was like Steve Irwin or Jane Goodall, probably many people, but those were two of my big influences.
Right.
And, just I've always kept that in mind, and I've seen that to be true, that people care about protecting things that they have had a personal interaction with. And so, that's a fact of life. And maybe it would be great if everyone just cared about the Grand Canyon, whether they'd been there or not. But when people have an up close personal experience, they're going to care more. That's just human nature.
Sure.
So in the past few years, we've had a handful of instances like how we had an engineer for like a car company come on one of our retreats in Arizona. And he was on a guided hike in the Grand Canyon with my partner, Zach, and the rest of the group. And Zach was just, talking his usual spiel about how like the mining industries and the oil and gas industries are constantly threatening the grandeur and the wonder of the amazing Grand Canyon, and how, like, we need to be aware of this. We need to protect this place because there are still constantly these battles going on where these big industrial companies are trying to come in and extract resources from this extremely sacred, beautiful, unique place. And that guy actually went home and he switched from being an engineer in whatever department he was in to being an engineer on like the green side of that company, to do more like forward thinking work to help make things more sustainable. And so that's just one example of a few that I could give of how, traveling can change people's perceptions.
Oh, look at what you did. That's so awesome.
Oh,
Very
thank
cool.
you.
And so so that's so, it's so perfectly said, Carrie. I mean, how you talked about that. Um and I'm not trying to promote all my guests, but like I had another guest, Haley Knight, who does travel for work. She's in PR, and she will stay somewhere for, 6 months or whatever, she just can work wherever she wants to. And so she was in Brazil last, and like Portugal, and just spending 6 months here and whatever, and just really getting to know the people and feeling connected to the area. And I think that's beautiful, because she talked about sustainable travel as well. Um, and she taught me that there is um backpacking insurance. I didn't know.
Oh, yeah, there is.
I learned that
Um,
from her.
yeah, and I always like get that backpacking insurance when we're going to be gone for a long time, but oftentimes the countries that we're traveling to have like such affordable, accessible healthcare that I don't even end up needing the insurance if something happens. But yeah, it does exist, so that's cool.
Awesome.
And on that note, yeah, I would just say, obviously there's a huge difference between booking like an all-inclusive resort for your vacation versus having the luxury of more time, being able to stay somewhere for longer, being willing to stay in like a little bit more simple backpackers hostels or Airbnbs or something, and seeking out those authentic experiences with local people. And especially if you're traveling to a place where life is just a little bit more simple, um, as far as consumption of goods goes, I think that can have a huge impact as well on just, teaching us that we can live with less, like teaching us that we don't need like all this like stuff that we tend to just buy because it seems like everyone else is doing it every day.
Right. Totally. And that's another big thing about travel that has always bothered me. Like you go and the whole like plane and tour bus, and then the hotel is so sterile, and all the plastic bottles and everything is wrapped in plastic, and they, wash their sheets every day. And I'm like, I'm not even that dirty. Like, please save your water and, stuff like that. I was just away in May, June, and it was like 4 days, I think. And I just kept my do not disturb sign on the door the whole time. I'm like, please, I don't want you to clean anything. I'll put my trash outside. But
Right? Yeah. Thank you for doing that. It's just so unnecessary to my brain as well. And I love how there's starting to be more like hotels and hotel chains, even that are starting to be a bit more mindful of that, where you can just like request if you do want them to give you clean linen instead of them just automatically doing it every
right,
day.
right.
So that's really good.
Yeah.
And like we go to Costa Rica every year. That's honestly one of our favorite places to go and to host retreats. And I would say of the places I've been, Costa Rica for sure is on the forefront of sustainability. There's just like, there's so many businesses that don't have any plastic, that, will only give you like cardboard or like reusable containers for to go food or for leftovers. You can get sustainable products everywhere. You can get like plant based food almost everywhere. And also in a lot of these places, taking public transportation instead of having your own vehicle is the norm. And in the United States, we see that as like sort of a class thing, like, oh, if you don't drive your own car, like you're just poor. And our
Right.
public transportation really is terrible in a lot of this country. And so, I believe that has an impact as well. If I'm gone for 6 months in Central America and I'm not driving my vehicle for those 6 months, like at least that makes me feel a little bit better about the flight I took to get there.
Right. Right. Yeah. And I had, yes. And I had a conversation with, a couple of people who are talking about flying specifically, and like, there's no way around it. You enjoy seeing new places and traveling to see family and whatever, but you just have to think, just like offset it in some ways, just do your best otherwise.
Yeah,
Sustainability is not
exactly.
perfect for everyone, and it's almost impossible if you're traveling to be completely sustainable, but you just have to, do whatever you can.
Oh, totally. And I mean, personal accountability is great and a wonderful thing, and I'm all about that. But we also have to look, I believe, at the bigger picture and like, your like one seat in the coach of an airplane is such a minuscule impact compared to, some perhaps celebrities and multimillionaires who are flying their private jet every single time they just want to like go to the next city over. And so I don't think that
Yeah,
takes us off the hook for
right.
our impact, but I think it puts it in perspective.
For
And
sure.
so, like vote with your dollars as well and spend your money with companies that are doing their best rather than these giant corporations that are just like, polluting and
Yeah.
flying private jets all over the place.
Uh, yes. So tell me about the retreats. I mean, I assume that they're yoga retreats.
Yes. So they are trauma informed yoga and adventure retreats. And my business name is Bigger Life Adventures. And so part of my story is actually coming from addiction into sobriety. So I am about 8 years sober from alcohol now. And
Right.
the name of the company, Bigger Life Adventures, came from something one of my first mentors in recovery said to me. And she said, your life can be bigger than your biggest dreams for it. And at the time, I was like, whatever, I'm not sure. I'm just like sad and depressed. I feel like I've messed
We'll
my life
see.
up so much. um,
Right.
but surprise, surprise, luckily she was right. And for me, quitting drinking was really like the key to unlock all this potential that I had for, living like this amazing, exciting, sustainable life that I had always wanted to live. So, Bigger Life Adventures, we offer retreats in the United States. We offer retreats around the world. They're all different lengths. Accessibility is a big part of what we try to provide. So, some are like campouts or backpacking trips in the United States that have a lower price point. And then some are, a week in Costa Rica or a week in Thailand. And we always try to just keep things focused on really authentic yoga. So, teaching the philosophy behind why we practice yoga as well, and not just like the physical poses or the workout part of it that we do on our mats. We try to teach a lot of mindfulness and meditation. And like I've said, we try to pick locations and beautiful places in nature that inspire people to think about their impact on the world and to think about, how they might be able to simplify and just be more aware of how their actions affect others and bring all of the things that they've learned back into the rest of their lives. So, some yoga retreats might be like very luxurious and more like influencer style, where you get a lot of cool pictures and are like sipping champagne in a lounge chair on the beach. And our retreats are comfortable and fun and relaxing as well, but we really try to emphasize like the power of healing in community and the power of healing in nature as well.
Right. And I would also, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it seems like um the power of less sort of um
Yeah, exactly. And it's a chance for people to just experiment with living differently. So my husband, Zach, is our chef. He's an amazing plant-based chef. And that's one of the things that people are often worried about is like, oh my gosh, how am I going to not eat meat for a whole week? And then without fail, the week ends and they're like, I'm going to miss this food so much. I felt so good. I felt so healthy. I can't believe there weren't any animal products used in any of that food, which is just a testament to how good Zach is. And I'm super lucky to be married to an incredible chef. um, but
yeah.
that's like, one of the lessons I think people come away with. And then, for example, we're always looking for sustainable, fun adventure activities. So in Costa Rica, we are connected to this amazing community of climbers who live in the cloud forest in Monteverde, which is one of the most diverse ecosystems on the planet. And so these climbers grew up there and they actually started climbing the giant strangler fig trees with ropes and rock climbing gear, even though they're climbing these giant trees in the cloud forest instead of rocks. And so that's an activity on that retreat.
Hmm.
And the message behind it is that we need to save the cloud forest because how often is anyone going to get an opportunity to be up in the canopy
Right.
on top of this like giant tree, looking at the birds and monkeys like up close and personal around you, and just witnessing how magical it is to like feel that amazing energy of that tree while you are literally like hugging it or sitting on a branch.
Right.
And the climbing doesn't hurt the trees in any way, either. And then us working with them supports them teaching tree climbing to school kids in that area so that those kids can learn it from a super young age how important it is to protect these trees in this ecosystem.
Oh my gosh. That's so cool. I mean, what a great thing that you've created this relationship by going every year. And I would think also, if I was having some thoughts while you were talking about that and just like Costa Rica is big for coffee. Is that
Yeah, it is. Yeah, coffee and
okay?
chocolate.
Yeah. Oh, that's what it is. Yeah, and just like, the forest, the deforestation and the rainforests are at risk everywhere. And all the beautiful things are at risk because people are just I think of tourism a lot as like there was a story not too long ago, was it last year, about a was it a dolphin or a stingray that everyone wanted to like take their picture with, and then the animal died. And like, we tend to
Oh,
do that. Like everyone wants to take pictures of everything, and that's great, but like it was out of the water for too long, I think, and it just got dehydrated, and it was just super sad. But stuff like
that's
that.
so sad. Oh
But
my
I just think
gosh.
of like, people like descending, I don't know if that's the right word, but on, the rainforest and stuff like that. And it's such a hard, it's almost like there's a balance because you don't want to bring too many people and have it be, I'm just thinking also of like cruise ships. Cruise,
Yeah.
I love cruise ships and I know that they're terrible for the environment, but oh my gosh, it's so fun to just like unplug and um not have to be responsible for anything.
I
um,
can see that for sure. That would be nice in many
but
ways.
but whenever they stop, they go to these places like maybe Costa Rica, but these places that are not really hugely populated, and then there are like thousands of people that just like descend, and people have to make food and they have to tour guide and stuff like that, and it's good for the economy, but is it good for I just there are so many things that I think about when I think about travel. There's so many things to think about, and I wonder if nope, I'm going to stop there. I don't want to get too philosophical because I it's unfounded, I'm sure. It's just thoughts that I have. But
Well, I totally see what you're saying. I mean, a couple years ago, I think we were in Quintana Roo, Mexico, staying with friends who are dive instructors in one of those port towns where the cruise ships come into. And it was just like so glaringly obvious in your face when, you know, the ships were docked and it was so busy and like all the bars were packed and it was just like a crazy party scene and like everywhere was just going off. And then it's like that night after they all get back on the boat, there's just like plastic cups flying into the ocean and, you know, like
Yeah,
trash everywhere. And our friends who were working there were like, well, you know, them coming is why we have jobs, but them coming is also like why this cute little beach town is getting kind of trashed.
right,
So it's always like pros and cons, you know, nothing is ever purely black or white in travel.
right.
And man, wouldn't it be nice if those giant cruise companies just like tried a little bit? You know, they have enough money to switch to like being more sustainable, whatever that means for some sort of fueling system, but you
Right.
know they could do it if
There's,
they chose to.
yeah, there's definitely ways that they could streamline or, it's, and just the thought that they are always getting bigger and bigger and bigger and holding more and more people, which, that's great for making money, but is it better for the ocean? Is it better for the cities that they're dropping into and stuff like that? It's yeah, I'm conflicted. I'm very
Yeah,
conflicted.
same.
um and so I want to, your retreats are trauma informed. I missed that.
Yes. Yes. So, trauma informed yoga instruction is just a style of guiding a yoga class that makes it more open to all body types, all histories. And so, because we focus a lot on recovery, whether that's recovery from addiction or an eating disorder or just past trauma, PTSD, anything like that, our retreats are meant to be friendly for people who are recovering from anything. And by teaching in a trauma informed way, it just means that I'm doing my best to not um, like trigger anyone's, you know, trauma or PTSD in the way that I'm guiding a yoga class.
Mm,
And so that can feel and sound very different than just like a typical yoga class at a studio that you might go to. There's a lot more choices, there's a lot more options. It's all about like empowering the students to make the right choice for them and feel good in their bodies. And there's not any judgment around like, well, this is more advanced than this. It's like we're all unique. Do what works for you.
yeah, make adjustments however you need to. That's amazing. I mean, I didn't know that was such a thing, but I've tried going to yoga classes many times, and I'm a big person, and I go and I cry because I feel
Mm,
like everyone's staring at me because I'm not doing it right because I'm bigger and it doesn't work as well. And they're so clicky. It's always been so
yeah,
clicky for me whenever I go. And so now I do yoga with Adrian, or right now I'm doing a, 3-month trial of some yoga program every night
great.
just to like
Well, good.
move.
Um, good that you found that those online resources. And I'm sorry that you've had that experience, and you're definitely not alone with that, you know.
Yeah.
We've sort of taken yoga in the West and created this overemphasis on the physical aspect of it. And if you go back to like the actual texts and the whole system of yoga, there's 8 limbs of yoga. The physical practice is only one of those 8 limbs. And so that's just one part of many tools that we can use to get present, to feel more connected, mind, body, spirit. And so, you know, that's like stylish in the United States because of yoga pants and Instagram. And, you know, it looks cool if you're like on a cliff in some really cool backbend. No denying that. But unfortunately, we've overemphasized that aspect so much that we are like alienating people who could really benefit from learning all aspects. of the practice.
Right. And your yoga pants have plastic in them.
Yeah, I know. Come on, people.
What are we doing?
Although I do know some companies that are somehow making them out of recycled old plastic bottles. So that's kind of cool.
That is very cool. I mean,
Yeah.
they're going to go out of business if we stop using plastic bottles, but
That would be better. Yes.
or they're going to have to pivot, I guess, not necessarily go out,
Yeah.
but yeah, I did not know that that was a thing, and I'm so grateful that you guys are doing that. And I wish you were
Oh, thank
closer.
you. Well, so one of the other things I do besides retreats is I do train yoga teachers in how to teach in a trauma informed way. And I've been doing this for a few years, just with experience working with recovery communities. I also have been teaching at the local juvenile detention center in Flagstaff for about 5 years with incarcerated youth. And so I've seen, how much benefit this can have if we're able to teach in a more approachable, accessible way that's not the typical clicky yoga studio. And I
Mhm.
want to train more teachers in this. So that is a goal of mine to be part of my future travels, is to just offer that 2-day trauma informed teacher training in more places that I go to. So if you
Awesome.
know anywhere in Maine that wants to host me, let me know.
Okay, I'll be on the
Yeah.
lookout. But I think I'm just starting to learn about, and I have not done any, but I'm learning about like somatic yoga, which is good
Hmm.
for, it's also good for like trauma, I think,
Yes.
and exercising your body in ways that are different, and that so like in my very simple learning of somatic yoga, like if you certain poses or like holding poses for a long time or something will like help to let like emotions out that are like clogging your clogging your body or something like that.
Yeah, totally.
I
No,
should be
you're
one of your
saying
yoga
it in
trainers.
a good way. Like, you're totally right. That is the idea for sure.
I did not know that that was a thing. That's really fascinating.
Well, I think psychology is just finally kind of catching up to this idea that the mind, body, and spirit are all connected. So, one of the quotes that I love is just, the issues are in the tissues. So, I think that yoga has sort of like known this, and the right yogis have been teaching this for generations. But finally now, like, current day therapists and psychologists are like, oh, we got to work with the body and the mind, not just the mind.
Yeah, right?
Yeah.
Oh gosh. It's just so interesting to me that all these things are and probably have been out and available, and we just don't really know about it. I think there's just I'm like obsessed with this the subject of like taboo topics, and like, not saying that yoga is taboo or anything, but just that there are treatments that have not been shown, or that we're just not aware of for
Yeah.
things that we have,
Or that don't make money for corporations.
or that.
I'm kind of into going there also. I'm very into like talking about the things that we're told we're not supposed to talk about. And so I was actually raised very like fundamentalist Christian, and so most of my family thinks that I'm like this crazy like hellbound rebel for even practicing yoga. So yeah, that's that's part of my story. And I feel you. Like, let's ask all the questions. Let's, peel back the layers and not, just continue like accepting the status quo of this society that isn't working out in a lot
Right.
of ways.
Right. Well, I mean, they're just things that we don't. Ooh, oh, words are so hard today. Um, like I just my episode that's coming out tomorrow is about menopause, and we're doing a menopause panel because that is another one of those taboo subjects. And
Right.
so stuff like that, and like, and trauma, like stuff like that, and the fact that we're bottling our emotions up, and then it's just like then you get like stiff neck, and I have stiff neck stiff neck right now. But like all these things that we just figure that we're supposed to just suffer with, like, I'm stressed, that's just how I am, and not like seek help because we didn't know that that was something that we could fix or something, or instead of taking Advil, right?
Yeah, exactly. One of the other things that I've studied that yoga led me to is the science of Ayurveda, which goes along with yoga. And this is like the natural health and wellness system that was developed in ancient India that looks at, food, lifestyle, herbs, your schedule, what type of work you're doing, when you're exercising, where you live, the climate. It looks at everything, like your entire person and your entire surroundings, and then uses that context to try to figure out how to help each individual figure out their optimal health and wellness. And the idea in Ayurveda is that different people need different things. What's medicine for one person might be poison to someone else because we are all unique. And so when I first started learning about that, that was like mind blowing to me because I also grew up with my dad being a Western physician. And, my household was always like, you don't feel good, here, take a pill, here, take this, here, just like slap a band-aid on it, literally and
Right.
figuratively. And Ayurveda is all about getting to the root cause of what's causing you to not feel well.
Ooh, I don't know why I thought Ayurveda was like an essential oil thing. Like,
Well, you can use essential oils in Ayurveda. So I wouldn't be surprised if you've seen essential oils labeled as Ayurvedic, or if you've seen
right.
like the two words put together,
Yeah.
because some essential oils are uplifting, some are relaxing.
Right.
Ayurveda is a lot about energy, so we could definitely use essential oils with that.
I just didn't know that there was more to it. I just assumed that it was and Ayurveda and yoga, in my understanding, would go together because you'd have like some like diffuser oil or whatever while you're practicing yoga, and you can do yoga for uplifting and energy, or to calm down and stuff like that. But it's
Yep,
like my
exactly.
simple understanding that I was like, oh, Ayurveda is just like sense.
Right. No, way, way more than that.
Yeah. Oh,
But
okay.
you've got the idea totally. It's like, what style of yoga you practice has an impact, what time of day, what essential oil, what you eat, what you drink, like all of these things have an impact. So it's just natural healing, basically, similar to Chinese medicine.
I need to learn more about that. Very cool. So do you practice that a lot, or is that just something that you've trained in and or learned about while you were learning yoga?
So I did my first yoga teacher training in Sri Lanka in 2018, and Ayurveda is still the dominant medical system there because it's so close to India. So that was where I first learned about it, and it was a very brief kind of introduction, and it just hooked me. I was fascinated,
Right.
probably because of that like rebellious streak I mentioned, and having my dad be a Western doctor. So I was fascinated by Ayurveda, and I decided to learn more. So I did an online program to become an Ayurvedic health counselor, which was about 800 hours of training. So I do incorporate that into my retreats, and I also see one-on-one clients to help them with what they're uniquely experiencing. And I really just love merging um, everything that I feel does relate well together. I can incorporate little tidbits of Ayurvedic wellness into a yoga class, even if we're primarily doing like warrior two, warrior three, stuff like that on a mat. I can still find ways to insert that in there. And then, if we're in a beautiful place in nature where we get to practice with the sunrise, that in itself is like an Ayurvedic routine that's good for us. And then, like you said, doing more grounding, like yin, relaxing style yoga in the evening. Yeah, it all just merges together so beautifully, I think.
Hmm. Okay. I need to learn more about that. And I'm not afraid to sound dumb when I say there's more than one warrior pose.
Oh yeah, there are, but no worries if you didn't know that. I wouldn't expect people who don't,
I
have a
wish.
regular asana practice to know that, and that's totally fine.
Right. So where you said Thailand and um Costa Rica, of course. Where else are you holding retreats? And in the US?
Yes. So the regular ones that we have done for a few years now are um, different places in Mexico, Joshua Tree, California, Arizona, our home base, um,
Joshua,
Costa Rica.
is that like hot yoga? Because isn't that like
It's Joshua Tree in the desert. We usually do in the spring or fall. So we usually that one's a camp out. So it is yoga outside. So it's like the dry heat, but at the right time of day, early in the morning or late in the evening, in the spring or fall. It's usually pretty nice.
okay? I just think of that as like, isn't that like one of the hottest places in the world?
So you might be thinking of, oh, sorry, words are escaping me. What's it called? Um, yeah, I think you're thinking of Death Valley, maybe.
Oh, yeah,
But
probably that.
Joshua Tree is a little higher elevation.
Okay.
So Joshua Tree, you wouldn't want to go there in the dead of summer, but our retreat in Joshua Tree this year is like October 17th to 21st. So it'll maybe be like a high around 80 at that time of year. So perfect for a camp out.
All right. Cool. All right.
Yeah.
So sorry, I interrupted you. So you've done Joshua Tree and
I
Arizona,
think Arizona, yeah,
Mexico.
Costa Rica, Mexico, Thailand. And so when we find really good places that we love, we like to repeat those same locations every year, both because it makes it easier for us planning wise, but also to just really like cultivate and grow the amazing relationships that we've made with people in
Right.
those places. And then, as like the business has grown and more people have started to know about us, we've gotten to add different ones. So we definitely started super small. We started with like just Joshua Tree in Arizona, and the idea of doing anything in a different country was like seemed so far away and like such a dream. And eventually we got there. So that was super exciting. And next year we'll have our first retreat in Guatemala, Atitlan, which is also incorporating plant medicine. So that's going to be like very interesting and special. And luckily, we found really skilled, really experienced facilitators there in Guatemala for that. And it's not even on my website yet, but why not tell you? We'll also be adding Portugal next year for our
Oh,
first time. Yeah. So we found a really cool like sustainable off-grid glamping style retreat in Portugal that we're super excited to go to.
oh my gosh. That was supposed to be my birthday present this past year.
Oh,
I'm
what happened? You didn't go?
getting divorced instead. Um,
Oh, I'm sorry. Maybe you should go by yourself.
I, if I can afford it, I will definitely. I mean, I have a very short list, like bucket list of places I want to go, and that's on it. Uh,
Awesome. Well, I
so
can send you info as soon as I figure it all out.
okay, cool.
Yeah.
That's cool because I mean, you're
Mhm.
going and you get to be around the beautiful area and you're learning stuff that is going to help you to be healthy. And how can that be bad?
Yeah, I mean, that's the idea. Plus, connecting with other like-minded people. And that's been one of the most rewarding aspects of what we've done is just watching like the community grow and, how like people will return and come to different locations with us because we go to so many different places. So it's like, you get to be really close with maybe like the 10 people that are on your retreat, and then hopefully like the WhatsApp chat continues and people continue to support each other, and then maybe they'll like reunite someday at a different one. So that's been really cool too.
Oh my gosh, that sounds awesome. Uh, so wow. Very cool. Um, when I say the word sustainability, Carrie, what does that mean to you?
So when I think of sustainability, I think of how we impact the earth and all other humans and creatures on the earth, and just being aware of how our consumption and um, everything that we do just really on a moment to moment basis has an impact. So I also live on native land in northern Arizona, and I want to acknowledge that this is the land of like the Dene and Hopi people primarily. And there's an indigenous concept of reciprocity, which I really believe relates to sustainability. And so reciprocity is like giving and receiving, and it's so easy to have an attitude of just like extraction in this day and age. It's so easy to say like, what can I take, what can I buy, or what can I take a picture of, or what can I, even if you're like hiking, if you're like picking up rocks, really that's not sustainable to be like taking something from nature. And so reciprocity is the idea of both giving and receiving at the same time, and trying to find balance between those two.
Wow, that's beautiful. Um, I'm just taking that in for a second.
Yeah.
That's a different
Um,
answer than I've heard before, and I really, really like that.
oh, interesting. It's a hard question because I thought about it a little bit beforehand, and I was like, what does sustainability mean? It's such a buzzword. We
Right.
talk about it all the time, but I've never been asked to define it before.
Right. Well, and it's yeah, it's not even necessarily defining, but like what it's such a big word and it can mean so many different things to even one person, like and I was as you were talking, I was thinking, oh my gosh, that's so right. Like we're always thinking about um like the impact. Like for me, it's like my impact, I want my impact to be lower, just like using less stuff and not making a mess and whatever. But to actually like give back, that's beautiful. It's like it's circle of life. Totally.
Yeah, exactly. What's the book? I'm trying to remember. Braiding Sweetgrass. I'm not sure if you're familiar with that book. I think it's by Robin Wall Kimmerer, Braiding Sweetgrass. So she is indigenous. I forget from exactly where in the USA, but talks a lot about reciprocity and what that means in different indigenous cultural contexts. So it's a really good one.
Braiding sweet grass. Sweet
Hmm.
grass. I'm writing that down.
Yeah.
Mm.
And this I do believe that some of the ethical principles that we get from way back in ancient yogic texts like the yamas and niyamas relate to sustainability as well. So there's this concept called ahimsa, which translates to non-violence. And so it's pretty obvious, like interpersonal violence, don't hurt other people, but there are so many ways in which we can inflict violence on this earth. And
Mm.
then, there's other ways that we inflict violence on ourselves just by like not treating ourselves kindly, or not eating right, or not taking care of ourselves. So I think nonviolence relates to sustainability. There's another principle of just moderation, which, that could just in itself be sustainability. Like, be moderate in your impact on this earth. Obviously, we all have needs. We have to eat, we have to drink water, we have to, live a fulfilling life, but we don't have to take too much.
Oh my gosh. That's that's so deep. I love it. That's awesome. Cool. And so, oh, gosh, I I've said this before because the conversations almost never go how I expect them to go. But I love that so much. Like I'm just my mind is blown a little bit every time and it just expands me so much more. So I'm so grateful for everything that you're doing in the world and that you said yes to coming here and talking to me about it because I am fascinated by all of these things. And think I need your practice, honestly. But so how can people find you? I mean, not not like stalk you in Arizona, but like if they wanted to be in touch with you or see what you're doing.
Totally. Yeah, thanks for asking. I mean, I'm pretty present online as an entrepreneur. I feel like you have to be in this day and age, and I'm fine with that because I'm an open book also. I believe in vulnerability and authenticity. So I'm on all the social media things, Facebook, Instagram, as Bigger Life Adventures. So you can just look that up. We also have a really cool Facebook group that's thriving called Bigger Life Adventurers. So that's where people can connect online and, chat about things like sustainable travel, yoga for recovery, like healing, whatever it may be. So that's been really cool to watch people in our community be able to stay connected to each other. So that's open to everyone. I also have an online class platform that's on a sliding scale. It's like online yoga videos of all sorts. There's meditation, there's, vigorous physical practices. There's hopefully something for everyone. And that's like between $15 and $25 a month if people are interested. You also get a week free if you sign up for that. So a week to totally just check it out, no obligation. But our website is biggerlifeadventures.com as well, and that has all about us, all the places we're going, bookings, scholarships, all the stuff is on the website, of course.
It's so much. And I'm like, if you guys are just listening, you're missing out because I can't help looking at this like shade cloth that is waving in the wind behind Carrie, and you can't tell by her voice.
I wonder if the wind is coming through on the audio. It is pretty windy today.
I'm not really sure. I mean, it sounds like, it doesn't sound like wind to me.
Okay.
But it just I'm like, how is it like your hair isn't like waving in the wind or anything like that, and that cloth is just like up and down. But so if you guys want to go to YouTube and check this out and watch the shade cloth waving. But Carrie, oh my gosh, I'm so thrilled that we connected and that that I get to talk to you. I've gotten so much out of this, and I can't wait to really dive into your website and maybe check out those online classes and the
Cool, cool.
coming Portugal trip.
Yeah, so that'll be released pretty soon. It'll happen next June. I'll announce it in the Facebook group first. So, shameless draw to get you in there. Um, and it's been great to chat with you as well, Amy, and this conversation and your topic just really inspired me to think a little bit more deeply about like why we do what we do and how we can be more sustainable going forward as a social business as well. So I appreciate that, and I just appreciate all the amazing messaging that you're putting out into the world. So thank you so much for having me.
Oh my gosh. I love that so much of what you do, it goes right back to sustainability. Like it's all very connected. And I think that, sometimes I feel like I need to sort of thread the needle and like make it all match up, but everything you do seems just like so in tune. So,
Oh, thank you for that. I mean, it would be nice if we could get to a place where all yoga retreats, had similar priorities. Unfortunately, that's not the case. So, if I can say one last thing, I would just encourage anyone who is ever going to look at going on a yoga retreat to do your research and really choose carefully and choose one that's like supporting good things in the world.
amen. What she said.
Thank you.
And with that, I thank you so much. And thanks to everyone for listening. And